Okay, it is the top of the hour, so we're going to go ahead and start with our introduction here. First of all, let me welcome everyone to what is now our third day of the LD4 2022 conference, Linking Global Knowledge. My name is Jim Han. I'm the session facilitator. Before I introduce our speakers, I'm just going to highlight a few resources can help you navigate the conference. At our conference website, listed there, you can find several important links. I'm going to drop the code of conduct here into our chat so everyone can have access to that. We just want to make sure we have a welcoming, inviting, and productive conference for everyone. If you do feel there's been a violation of code of conduct, please, you can report that at the page there. There's a anonymous reporting link. Also, if you're on Twitter or social, we're using this hashtag here, LD4 2022 for linked data conference tweets. We also offer technical assistance during the conference by way of our free conference Slack. So there's a Slack invite. It's specific to the conference. It's not part of the LD4 community Slack, so that's a little different. But you can find tech support there. And if you want to continue the conversation for any session here this week, you'll find channels in the conference Slack for that purpose. And all sessions here, we're either recording them or streaming them to YouTube. So you'll be able to find them later at the LD4 YouTube presence. So this one in particular, we are streaming this one. So it should be available immediately after it's done. You could find it on YouTube. So that being said, now I'm able to introduce our speakers. So let me start. We have 4 speakers. First speaker, Giovanna Fontanelli, is a journalist and historian, works as a program officer, GLAM and Culture at the Wikimedia Foundation. She's also the general coordinator of the Creative Commons Brazil. Her current activities are related to GLAM Wiki, Open GLAM, and linked open data initiatives, in addition to projects on diversity, mostly gender, and knowledge equity. Luca Martinelli, a Wikimedia Foundation Community Relations Specialist. Since 2021, work at the Wikimedia Foundation as Community Relations Specialist, Wikipedian since 2006, Wikidatan since beginning of Wikidata, and former member of the Wikimedia Italia Board 2014 to 2017. Dominic is a data fellow at DPLA and working to integrate DPLA collections into Wikimedia projects and make them more readily accessible and reusable online. And finally, Patricia Diaz, a Wikimedia Chile Executive Director. Patricia is Chile's Executive Director promoting local and open content on the internet. They have a background in cultural heritage, communications, and development studies. They're interested in the emergence of new narratives within the digital environments and the promotion of policies of dissemination and open access to culture, collective memory, cultural heritage from a human rights perspective. So with that, I will turn it over to our speakers, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jim. I will share my screen and start with a small, quick introduction to our session today, and then Dominic will be next. So let me just, I hope that everyone is seeing the screen properly and hearing me. So this session is structuring Wikimedia to reach global communities. I would like to thank the 3 other people here that agreed to do this presentation with me. I know we are all kind of like in vacation mode a little bit, so I really appreciate your participation. And the aim of this presentation today is to get 3 different subjects related to shared data to exemplify its power and its ability its ability to reach and connect global communities. We are going to speak here today about 3 projects that not only use structured data, but structured data on commons, which is the structured data applied to files on Wikimedia Commons, which is the Wikimedia Multimedia Project. These initiatives here, of course, will have a strong connection with the GLAM and culture area, as structured data makes content from different GLAM institutions connect with other content, other institutions, as well as other wiki projects. And this project that we will talk about today will also prove how effective data structuring can be in connecting and transforming Wikipedia and the internet into a more accessible place. So first, oh, sorry, I said Dominic, but we are actually, we are going to hear first from Luca, and we are going to hear first about structured data across Wikimedia, about media search on commons and image suggestions. And then we are going to talk about this project, this feature called Anonimage, and how it functioned, and the involvement of the growth and GLAM teams in the Wikimedia Foundation and the One Peak One Art events / campaign. And finally, Dominic, now I'm correct, we'll talk about the DPLAs, the Digital Public Library of America Wikimedia Program, and how they are working with structured data on commons in innovating with structured data on commons.
So, welcome everybody. Hi everyone, I'm Luca Martinelli, Community Relations Specialist at the Wikimedia Foundation for the Structured Data Across Wikimedia project. So, a bit of an introduction. The Structured Data Across Wikimedia is a 3-year initiative, partially funded by a grant by the Sloan Foundation. And it's aimed at developing systems for structured data across all Wikimedia projects. So this is also a follow-up project of structured data on commons that was completed last year. Another program that was also partially funded by the Sloan Foundation, and that basically worked on making structured data available on Wikimedia Commons. So our project now, Structured Data Across Wikimedia, leverages on this structured data, and it does it on with 2 different projects that I'm not just those 2 projects, but today I'm going to focus on these 2 things, of which you can find a brief description here. Next slide, please. So first of all, media search on commons. Media search on commons is an image-focused user interface that makes it easier to find what you're looking for and discover new things. Basically, what happened on commons is that the old search interface was not entirely good at finding what we needed to find. So basically, with structured data on commons came this new way of looking at materials on media search, which is now the default experience on commons. So this is, you can see here a you can see a screenshot of what media search looks like. So it has image focused and very user-friendly grid. You can click on any image to see a lot more information about it, like license information, commons assessment, source, which it's most important for us Wikipedians. Where does it come, that particular image? And you can also filter the search about license, about file type, about image size, and so on and so forth. And most of all, this set of search uses structured data and is more language agnostic than the former version of search. We're going to discuss this later. Next slide, please. So basically, media search works as in this way. The first main input is still the text-based search, but the other main input is the structured data provided by the users and or by the GLAMs that actually donated not just the media, but also the structured data that come with that media, all the catalogs, medias that they donate to us is uploaded into Commons as structured data, and media search leverages on this structured data to find actually better to find in a better way what we are looking for. Media search basically queries the statements, the captions, expands the research also on Wikidata labels, and further expands then in category the search on categories and other text-based information that we see on Commons. But most of all, it works in any language supported by MediaWiki, which are in the hundred. We are talking about hundreds of languages, and does not require any knowledge of English. Next slide, please. So here you can see an example of how media search works. So the first one on the lower image is the old search for sunspot in English. So you can see that there are several results. But if you are looking for sunspot in Dutch, this is the second image, you find only one result, because most of the wiki text on Commons is in English. Legacy search doesn't include structured data and relies mostly on text. So if most of the text is in English, you have to type it in English and not in your language. But what happens with media search, and this is the third image, is that literally the same search, still in Dutch, presents many more results, because of course it leverages on the fact that Sunspot has both a label on Wikidata for English and Dutch, so it makes a match and gives you much more results in Dutch. I repeat, in another language other than English than it was before with the legacy common search. Next slide, please. So basically, media search also became the default media search backend for Visual Editor. So if you're editing Wikipedia, you will see two different interfaces. Visual Editor is the what you see is what you get kind of interface, the easier one, the one that looks like the common text editor for on your computer. So whenever you have to add an image, and whenever you have to search for an image in this interface, all the results are now the same as those shown in media search. So that means that you have a much better selection of images to choose from whenever you want to illustrate an article. That brings us to my second point. Next slide, please. So my next point is image suggestion, which is loosely based on the add an image feature that will probably be discussed by Patricia, because this is something that we are leveraging from the growth team, which is another team here at the foundation. And you can see here a brief description of why we are focusing on image suggestions. In many Wikipedias, over the half of the articles there have no images. That means that all the media that have been donated by our partner GLAMs and by, well, people all around the world, freely donated by people all around the world, are not used in many of the Wikipedia articles, despite having more than 65 million images now on Wikimedia Commons. So using structured data, we are trying to make connection between those images and the articles on Wikipedia in order to grow and diversify contributors, improve contents for readers, and narrow gaps in content. But most of all, what we want to do is make the process of adding media and making connection between content easier. Because right now it isn't, and take it from someone who's on Wikipedia since 16 years. Next slide, please. So here you see a schema of how we're doing this. I'll try to be very brief about it. So first of all, we determine whether an article is unillustrated through the image suggestion API that uses structured data to provide all the suggestions that we are going to discuss about. So first of all, we find an article which is unillustrated. Then we look at the Wikidata item for the article. I cited many times Wikidata and now only realized that I should have told what Wikidata is for those who don't know it. Wikidata is basically a project aimed at making a database of structured data about, well, knowledge, basically, whatever object, subject, or concept is out there in the real world. So let's talk about, I don't know, Julius Caesar or an asteroid or a book or a song or whatever you think. We might have a Wikidata item about it, so possibly also a Wikipedia article about it. So what we are going to do is look for the Wikidata item about that particular unillustrated article and check in turn if it has an image, if it has a commons category linked, or if some article in other language has some lead image. So if one of these three criteria is met, the image suggestion API will suggest this image to be added to the user. If we can find an image or a commons category or a lead image in any other Wikipedia, then the API will search on media search for the title of the article, combining traditional text-based search with the structured data from Commons and Wikidata. If an image ranks high enough in the results, it will choose that image. And this will give to every user up to 2 image recommendations per week. Next slide, please. So here you can see the current workflow. So this is something that will focus more on experience editors, which means that have at least 500 edits on the project. The tool will check on the user's watch list for articles edited in the last 30 days. And then, well, you can read the workflow. I'm not going to steal any more time from the other presenters. But what I want to focus about is the goal, which is to embed the suggestions in the user existing Wikipedia activities through weekly notifications. So increasing the likelihood that those users will review such suggestions and add the selected images as part of their current editing workflow. And they can choose to edit via Wikitext or Visual Editor, and they can review the image and the article information in the notification. So what we are going to try here is to actually make the add an image feature also for experienced editors. Next slide, please. What we don't want to do is what you see. So encourage edits that will be overwhelmingly reverted because they don't adhere to policies or because the image is not the right image. We don't want to make any change to existing convention. We don't want to introduce especially additional bias because images sometimes might not be extremely neutral or can be used in a non-neutral way whenever you're discussing a particular topic. And we don't want to also create a new tool that will go unused due to lack of incentive for use. We want the users to actually use this tool and we don't want to annoy users with too many notifications. That's why we set the bar so low at only 2 notifications per week. Next slide, please. And well, I'm now ending my part of the presentation with the current status of the project, which will be tested on 3 Wikipedias starting from next week. Portuguese, Russian, and Indonesian Wikipedia have been identified as potential communities on which test this tool. The testing phase, as I said, is scheduled to start finally next week. So hopefully, starting next week, new images will be added to the Wikipedia articles in these communities, which have been chosen mostly because they are more compact and they are more content focused than other communities. And we expect the current rates of image additions to improve. As you can see, currently experience editors add an average to 8 to 11 medias each. We want this rate to actually go up. Hopefully, it will be the opportunity of this tool. Let's see in a year what will be the result, but we are fairly certain that this will help, and this will help also. And with this, I end my part of the presentation. This will help also leveraging all the content that comes from Glance, all the images, not just images, but also the audio files, the video files that come from our grant partners. We want these medias to be used on Wikipedia and to enrich Wikipedia and the current reading experience for readers. We want to ameliorate that through quality content. So we seriously hope that the image suggestion tool with media search will help us in that. With this, I end my part of the presentation. I hope I didn't went too long. And thank you for your attention. And I'll be available for questions after we're all done. Thank you.
Thank you, Luca. I think now it's a little bit of my part, and then Patricia, we are going to talk more or less about the same thing. And well, I will talk now about the Add an Image Structured Task, which is a very similar project to image suggestions, to what Luca was saying before, but well, a few different twists. So one of the projects is starting with an image, and another one is starting with an article. And both of them work with shared data in the end. And this specific one, it was developed and thought of by the GROW team at the foundation, and more specifically, through the Newcomer Experience Pilot, which is one of the big projects that were going on in the foundation in the last year. And basically, this task, it uses structured information to suggest images about certain topics on Wikipedia. It is destined to attract and retain newcomers, so specifically to new users, differently from the one that Luca was talking about before, that it can be more direct to more advanced and medium users as well. And this one, it happened in several Wikipedia languages, but specifically today in this presentation, we will explore more the Latin American example of it, right? What happened during the project that we developed in Latin America. And here is the link to a page if you want to know more about the shared data, the Add an Image Structured Task. And here is an image to illustrate a little bit the process of what the newcomer would do when they decide to engage in this activity. Before this step, they would actually enter the page for the task and choose a subject. And the subjects were like, for example, art, architecture, sports, history, things like that, so general topics. And they would receive a suggestion of an image, right? And they could say if that image would be correct for the suggested article. So they would, this is of course a mobile view here, right? And they would, in that moment, check the information about the image, the information available on Wikimedia Commons, and would decide if that image was correct was not only correct, but good enough for that article, right? And the suggestions would be related to the topic that the user chose and would be of articles without a previous image. And it uses the same metadata information basically that Luca's project was talking about as well. And then here, another example of the part of the initiative of the task that you had to add a caption to it. And this actually was, this is a very interesting thing because this was added as a step because of the engagement that we had between the Grow team and our team, the GLAM team, the GLAM and Culture team, because we, for the reasons that I will explain in a few slides, we thought that this would very much be engaging for our participants in the events that we organize. But they were already talking and thinking about this, but it was a decision that, of course, made a lot of sense to GLAM / specifically museum workers that we were trying to engage in this initiative here. So why images? So as Luca was saying before, Wikimedia Commons contains millions and millions of images, but in many Wikipedias, over 50% of articles have no images. And we believe that many images from Commons could make Wikipedia more illustrated, right? So that's why the choice for images, and also because this kind of edit, just adding images, they are very easy kind of edits. And even though they are easy, they make important changes. So an article that has an image, it attracts more the reader. It makes the reader engage more and makes the reader stay more in the article and think that that subject that article is talking about, it's more important. Also because this task here is direct for newcomers, and newcomers really like interacting with images. We just need to look at the state of the internet at the moment. That's basically like social media and images. So people like to interact with images. And also because it had a characteristic very attractive to campaigns, right? And so we developed this partnership inside of this project between the Grow team, which is the team running it, and the GLAM team. And we decided that we wanted to do, we wanted to organize events to test the Grow team feature. And because of the involvement of the GLAM team, we wanted to deal with people, newcomers that were connected with GLAM institutions. And we would like to do that in Wikipedia in Spanish. And so we started the project with the GLAM team, and we decided that we wanted to, our motivation was to directly engage more GLAM institutions from Latin America and Wikimedia partnerships, to recruit and retain museum workers as Wikimedia contributors, and to work with communities, and specifically in Argentina and Mexico and Chile, which was the ones that we worked with in this project. And Patricia will talk about this in a few minutes. And the lessons that we were trying to understand and to have, it was to understand if museum workers would be more engaged as contributors, understand if museum workers would be more receptive to Wikimedia partnerships, and understand if museum workers would be more engaged if images are the starting point rather than articles. We want to understand which would be more engaging for our type of audience. So like people that work within those institutions, or people that like to edit about topics and content related to those institutions, like cultural heritage content, right? And so this partnership between the two teams started. And when we were like for a few months, we were trying to understand how to make this happen, right? And to organize the events that we would do to test the feature. And we then reached three very important changes to the way that the task had been taught until that moment. So we asked, as the GLAM team, we asked to have not only a mobile option for it, but also a desktop, because we understood that museum workers who would be participating in those events, they would be more comfortable working and participating on a desktop because they work in a desktop. And that we wanted to, that the topics that would be available in the task at that moment of those events, that it would not be only about general topics, but topics more to the interest of the participants. So we added topics for each of the countries participating, so Argentina, Mexico, and Chile. And also we want the ability to merge different topics. So Argentina plus art, for example, and then the person who chose that would get all the topics on Spanish Wikipedia about Argentina and art. And so we did it. At first we wanted to do two events, one with Wikimedia Argentina and another together with Mexico and Chile at the same time. Later, we realized the power of this activity and planned for one test event with Wikimedia Argentina, one main event with Wikimedia Argentina, one event with Mexico, and another one with Chile. It became a campaign, which was at first not what we were expecting, but it says a lot about like the success of the initiative as well. A campaign with 4 events, 100 of participants and dozens of institutions all over Latin America. Argentina sent more than 1,000 invites and received hundreds of registration. The chapter had to decline people to accommodate the limited number of participants. We hired 2 contractors, one in Chile and one in Mexico, created a visual identity, hired an image expert from Argentina to talk about image in the context of Latin America. We provided food, badges, certificates for participants, and work on improving the task itself for the participants, as I was mentioning in my last slide. And after the events, people from some institutions continued in contact with the chapters and are thinking about maybe extending that connection as partnerships, which was one of the most important things for us as the GLAM and culture team. They also continued to edit, especially after 2 weeks after the events, but also after that as well. And not only editing this specific task, which was important for us and for the Grow team to understand, but also using other structured tasks from the Grow team, as for example, the add a link, which is adding like hyperlinks inside Wikipedia. And also in doing other kinds of edits as well. I saw a few people that were uploading images, which is a more advanced way of interacting with images, right? And I mean, that showed how engaged participants were and how the task was attractive to them and how Wikimedia can attract museum and other cultural workers just with the power of a well-done structure-based activity, right? Of course, that there are a lot of things that we need to enhance. So there are little bugs and a lot of things that we want to make it better for this, in order for this to work even better. But we could prove that a shorter task like this would benefit all the sides. So like the Wikimedia side and the GLAM and culture side as well. And that's it for my part. Now, Patricia.
Thank you, Giovanna. Hi, I'm Patricia. I'm the Executive Director of Wikimedia Chile. And I wanted to talk to you about the positive impact that this project in particular had in a community like ours in Chile, especially when creating activities for newcomers and communities that are not necessarily involved in the Wikimedia ecosystem. So just like Giovanna said, this project in particular was a part of a regional alliance that include Mexico, Argentina, and Chile, and Giovanna's team, right, the GLAM and Culture team at Wikimedia Foundation. There's a bug in the number, but we had more than 30 participants in the Chilean event. And even though we had most of our attendees were from Chile, we also had some people coming from Argentina, Colombia, Mexico, and Peru, which showed us that, well, first of all, we did a big diffusion process, but also there was a lot of interest in people from other countries to engage in this project. And the scope of this activity was, like just like Joanna said, GLAM and culture practitioners, and we had artists, librarians, teachers and professors, museum professionals and practitioners, and other type of professional profiles in this activity. Next one, please. So from our experience, well, there's a lot of things that happened during that event, but I wanted to just highlight 5 main outcomes or 5 main reflections that we took from our experience. First of all, that this was a new tool that really helped us to reach new communities. Yeah, we know that the add an image is just a function or just a tool, but there's a lot that you can do using that tool. And these cycle of meetings that we have in Latin America during this year, and the number of participants and the number of contributions that they made and that they continue making way after the event, sorry. It showed us that there was a lot of interest in connecting with the Wikimedia movement, but that people and professionals and their institutions do not necessarily know how to be a part of our movement. And this project and this activity and the invitation we made to them was a very good excuse to create that first connection. And we are very happy about that. That takes us to another point, that this project confronted us as Wikimedia facilitators or Wikimedia promoters, right? The chapters we fulfill that role. That it's a fact that reaching new communities like the GLAM practitioners is not always easy, and especially when those communities have no experience contributing to the Wikimedia movement. And by using the add an image tool and by creating a particular narrative about the importance of this project and the importance of images and selecting them and curating them, we could create like a specific invitation for them and a sort of like I said, like a narrative that really makes sense to them, and show them that they could make significant contributions to Wikimedia movement by just selecting and clicking. And that leads us to a third point, a third reflection that we made. And actually, I discussed this with Giovanna, and it was very like inspiring for us, like that to realize that we chapters, when I define ourselves like promoters, right, like Wikimedia facilitators, we normally start by promoting or by teaching or by engaging people, inviting people to use Wikipedia, like a port of like a door of entrance to the Wikimedia world. But that's not easy. That's not always easy because there's so many capacities that are involved in that process. The whole platform and the community has a lot of layers, and sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming for newcomers. Yet, using this particular projects, features, or options make the idea of working with newcomers way more easier, way more practical, and it showed us, the experience showed us that people like really connect with this first first experience, that just like this knowing the tipping of this whole universe, and it was very successful for us. And it really showed us also to us that there are other ways to engage with Wikimedia content and be a part of, and make significant contributions and be a part, and taking a role in the quality review process of Wikimedia content. As a fourth point, I want to highlight the fact that, at least for Wikimedia Chile, I know that our reality is not necessarily the reality across the movement, but these projects proven to be a very successful way to engage and to retain people in somehow. Since we took part in this project in April 2022, around 30% of the attendees of our event, in the Chilean event, participate in other Wikimedia Chile's activities, like Wikipedia or Wikidata workshops, or even in our specialized training courses for GLAM practitioners, and that makes us like super happy. And finally, this whole project was a great opportunity for us to discuss in a collective way about visual content, about how it is built, the role of images shaping the way we perceive things, and history and places and events and political processes, and how this visual content can and should be situated in order to be significant and meaningful, especially in the importance of this process, especially when this content is seen through such a huge platform like Wikimedia and its different projects. So this project and this perspective and the things that we could took out of this collaboration are very, very meaningful for us as in our chapter, not only because, we collaborate and we create and we had an impact and we engage with people, but also because in somehow it really, like the spirit of the project and the collaboration really connect with our ethos, and in Wikimedia Chile, in our particular ethos in Wikimedia Chile, when we do try to invite people to collaborate in the Wikimedia projects as a way to create better, more local and more representative content about our history and our processes and our culture in Wikimedia and in internet in general. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. Let me just put Dominique's slides here. Everyone, I also will share the slides afterwards so you can have an idea what Patricia was talking about, with some other useful links from the initiative as well. So Dominique, thank you.
It looks like maybe we lost Dominic.
Oh no.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there were internet issues, but we are about a minute time, but let's see. Are there any questions? It looks like there were two that were answered, and then I'm not sure if, well, why don't we do this? Why don't we ask people to join the Slack? And then there is a channel there that is specific to this session. So if there's like, if you want to continue sort of sharing links and resources, I think that'd be a good place for people to continue. But we are at time now. So thanks so much for sharing your expertise with us. We really appreciate your work.